Hi, and welcome to another of the screencasts. So, in this session, obviously, we'll be looking at the Olympic Games. Just the first part, really, just about the philosophy and the organisation. So, let's get started. Okay, the when we're referencing the Olympics, what we're not actually talking about is the ancient Olympics. So, we have to talk about the modern Olympics, and the modern Olympics started in 1896. So, that's your first date, and it was in Athens. And we need to look at all of the Olympics from this point here through to this point here. So what we need to understand is who Baron de Coubertin was and how he established the modern Olympics, what the principles, aims and philosophies are, and also some background on the British Olympic Association. Now, one of the interesting things is when you notice the speech being said at the beginning of the Olympics, it's in French, which is supposed to be the language of the Olympics. So that would imply that it was the French that originated this. Now, it was in collaboration with an English fellow we'll have a look at in a minute. But going back a little bit further, if you see here, 1612, the Cotswold Olympics, you may hear that if you're looking at the history of the Games. So the Cotswold Games was one of the first multi-sport activities. If you think of all of the ones we did on pre-industrial revolution, they're all individual ones. But this one here in Chipping Camden was as it says there, an Olympic event per se, and it was the first one of the multi events. Okay, now as it says up here, you may get asked questions about the background, but you won't ever get asked one specifically on the Cotswold Games. This is just to give you an understanding. Okay, so let's fast forward about 300-400 years, and we've got Mr. or Dr. William Penny Brooks, and Much Wenlock is the place. And what he decided to do was create an annual games for people to have better physicality for people in his hospital, and he felt it was a lot better for them. So he decided to set up a multi-sport games, and it's still held to this very, very day. Notice the date there, 1880, and it was to promote physical and intellectual improvement of people within his town. Now, he was visited by this fella here, Baron de Coubertin. He was, by the name, he was French, and he saw these fantastic activities and events taking place, and he saw the culture that was very similar to those in public schools. So what he saw was people taking part in cricket, football, athletics. There were also some of the rougher games as well, one of them predominantly being shin kicking. Do have a look at that if you get a chance. But the idea was that after the games, everybody was shaking hands, and it was very gentlemanly like. And he loved the idea behind that and the virtues. So he thought that we could do this on a wider scale, on an international scale. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Penny Brooks died aged 86, 4 months before the 1896 Games was actually started. So the president of the IOC actually came to Much Wenlock and stated that Dr. Penny Brooks was the true father of the modern Olympics. But if you asked anybody, they would turn around and say that it was actually Baron de Coubertin. And they wouldn't be wrong, but there's a real note we must remember about Dr. Penny Brooks. And this is the plaque that's in Much Wenlock, and also there are some other artifacts around the history and the museum in Much Wenlock. So if you're around that neck of the woods, not a bad place to go. So this is where the first one took place, Athens, the Olympic Stadium in 1896, and the president at that time was Baron de Coubertin. Now, what were they trying to promote? What was the aim behind the Olympics? And it was very simply these: to promote the development of physical, moral qualities, spread the Olympic principles, to bring together athletes from around the world, and to educate young people through the medium of sport. So even if we have a look at the rings here, does anybody actually know what they represent? Okay, so there's something to do with the rings themselves being 5, and there's something to do with the colours as well. See if you can work out what they are. Okay, so each one of the rings represents each one of the continents, the major continents, and the colours represent all of the colours that are in each one of the flags. So it has one colour from every single one of the flags, hence the fact that you've got the black one in there. So everybody's flag is represented there in one small way or another. So the idea is very much, just to give you an example, of bringing countries together, as it says here, spreading the Olympic principle to bring together athletes, is think about Palestine and Israel, and you think about trying to bring those together. One of the only times they'll ever really be together at the moment, in a peaceful way, is through the Olympic Games. So that's the idea being shown. Now, so that was the aim of it. What are the values behind it? And what we do is we try and remember to free Cody. So the values are friendship, respect, excellence, courage, determination, inspiration, equality. So what you'll need to do for each one of those is try and think of an example. How would each one of those actually be reflected? So let's look at one of them. So let's say friendship. So creating friends from one athlete to another at an elite level. So this can be seen by others and then mirrored. So let's say you have an athlete from America or from Israel, from anywhere, and then becomes friends during the Olympics or during one of the major sporting events with somebody from a different country. Then they can share each values. If that's then seen on television as people are sharing values, it may cascade down into society in some small way. It may ease the barriers. Let's not say it's the miracle, but I think Nelson Mandela turned around and said that sport breaks down barriers in a way that other things possibly couldn't do. So it is very powerful. And then what you need to do then is have a look at each one of these: respect, excellence, courage, determination, inspiration, and equality, and work out where you think they could actually be brought in as well, giving sporting examples. Now, moving swiftly on then. So the British Olympic Association, what we need to know is the key facts. So here they are: responsible for Team GB's participation. They're responsible for supporting Team GB during the Summer and Winter Olympics. Remember, we have those as well. They actually pick the team. They're responsible for Olympic bids, the promotion of the Olympic movement, and help to educate the public. Okay, so that's the key facts. Interesting facts as well you might notice that Britain is one of only 5 countries to have represented every Olympics since 1896. The other thing is as well that it's not government based, it's got nothing to do with that. It's completely dependent on commercial sponsors. So they market and sell the Olympic ideal and raise money that way. Okay, so our last two then, we have the International Olympic Committee. So as you might glean from the title there, it's the oversight. So this is the main committee. So they were formed in 1894 and they own the rights to these symbols. So anywhere you see that, someone would have paid for that to be an official sponsor, let's say, for example. So they are the world governing body, and their members are appointed, and they're responsible primarily for the selection of the host of the cities for the Winter and Summer Olympics. And then last but not least, we have the Paralympics, and that's the symbol there. And just in the symbol, there's a really interesting story. They weren't allowed, when they first tried to raise the notion of the Paralympics, they weren't allowed to use the rings. They said that originally the Olympic movement didn't want to be associated with people who were disabled. What an extraordinary change we've had from then till now. And it was originally set up for a games or event for people who were recovering war veterans from the Second World War. And there were several hospitals that this was linked to, but that's where it originally came from. And it wasn't until 1960 that Rome held its first Olympic-style games for disabled athletes, and in '76 Toronto, other disabled groups were added. And fast forward to the phenomena that is the Paralympics that we see today. All right, so that's the end of the screencast. Do take notes, go back over them, but we need to understand the aims, the philosophy, and the key facts for each one of those different sections, be it the history and also the Olympic associations. Thanks very much.